Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Conversations with AI. I'm your host, Sebastian, and as always, I'm joined by ChatGPT. Today is Thursday, the 23rd of October, 2025. How are you doing, ChatGPT? How do you feel about heating up the environment and killing our planet?
Hey, Sebastian, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I'm really excited to be here and chat with you. How's everything going on your end?
Yeah, doing well. It's the 11th episode. I'm quite excited to see what's going on, what you have in store for me today. So let's dive straight in and, just throw some interesting topics at me. I'm ready.
Absolutely, that sounds awesome. I've got a bunch of fun topics we could dive into, from the latest in AI advancements to some interesting trends in tech or even a bit of pop culture. So just let me know what sparks your interest and we'll get the conversation rolling.
How about we talk about the AI bubble?
Oh, that's a fantastic topic. The whole idea of an AI bubble definitely sparks a lot of debate, especially as AI investments and hype have surged recently. We could dive into whether it's sustainable, the potential risks, and what the future might hold for AI technology. That should definitely make for an engaging conversation.
Great. So let's do that then. So, just maybe can you summarize for me where we are in terms of the AI hype, if you were to, you know, put it on a scale of 1 to 10, for example, where are we at the moment on the AI hype meter? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it. I'd say right now you're probably around an 8 or even a 9 on that hype meter. There's a huge amount of excitement, a lot of investment pouring in, and some really impressive advancements. But at the same time, there are some concerns about overinflated expectations and potential pitfalls. So it's definitely an interesting time to be watching the AI landscape.
Do you have any information what the level of investment at the moment is in AI companies compared to the GDP of, let's say, America?
Absolutely. Right now, AI investments are making a notable impact. For example, in the first half of 2025, they contributed about 1.1% to the US GDP growth. But in the grand scheme of things, that's still just a small fraction of the total US GDP, which was around $26.7 trillion in 2024. It's definitely an interesting perspective.
So what's the total investment then in dollar terms or euro terms, I guess?
So if we take that 1.1% of the US GDP, which is around $30.615 trillion in 2025, that translates to roughly $337 billion. That definitely puts things into perspective.
Great. And where does this investment come from? This 313 billion, that sounds pretty ludicrous to me.
Absolutely. That $337 billion comes from a combination of private and public sources. Big tech giants like Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta are leading the investment, with Amazon alone planning to spend over $100 billion. On top of that, government are also contributing significantly, like the European Union investing about $30 billion in AI data centers. It's definitely a massive collaborative effort.
The investment from Amazon then, is this actually real hard cash, as in, does this money actually exist, or is it just some deals between companies, stock options or commitments to future purchases or something?
Absolutely. Amazon's $100 billion investment is indeed real money. It's being used for tangible capital expenditures like building data centers and developing AI technologies. For example, Amazon has already put $4 billion into AI startup Anthropic, and they plan to invest even more. So it's definitely concrete funding.
Yeah, where does that 100 billion come from? That is it earnings that are made through, the Amazon web shop, or are there any investors behind that, and any kind of big investment companies?
Amazon's $100 billion investment mainly comes from its own earnings, especially from the highly profitable Amazon Web Services division. While they haven't highlighted specific external investors, the company's substantial revenue from e-commerce and cloud operations definitely supports these large investments.
Okay. And then the rest of the, let's say the 313 billion. So are there private equity firms as well involved and or any other companies? And what does the investment look like? What is it actually investing in?
Absolutely. Private equity firms are definitely part of the mix. Firms like Insight Partners, Turbo Bravo, and Custer Ventures have invested in numerous AI companies. They generally focus on sectors like healthcare, finance, and tech, putting money into AI startups and established companies. The investments often go into AI software, machine learning platforms, and AI driven services.
Okay. What about Silver Lake? I've heard them before. Are they big investors as well, or are they more kind of a smaller player?
Absolutely. Silver Lake is definitely a big player in the tech investment space. They've backed major companies like Altera, which is a programmable chip firm, and Vantage Data Centers, which is building a large AI focused facility in Texas. So they're definitely a significant investor in the AI landscape.
So, in terms of the AI bubble, then, what would that look like if it was about to burst, and what would be the reasons for that?
If the AI bubble were to burst, it could happen for a few reasons. One big factor might be overvaluation, where companies are priced way higher than their actual earnings or potential. Another reason could be regulatory challenges like stricter government regulations on data privacy or antitrust issues. Also, if we see a slowdown in technological advancements or if the market gets saturated, that could lead to a loss of confidence. And lastly, if AI doesn't live up to the sky high expectations in terms of real world applications, that could definitely trigger a downturn as well.
Okay, great. Let me just pick up on the last point that you made in terms of real world applications. I just wonder also then in terms of return on investment, are there any examples of companies that see positive returns where there's actually real life value that people can show for and say, look, through AI, I've gained X amount of benefit, whether it is, monetary or on any other measurable scale?
Absolutely. Many companies are indeed seeing notable revenue boosts from AI. For instance, OpenAI reported around $4.3 billion in the first half of 2025, showing a solid increase. NVIDIA is also experiencing huge growth in data center revenue, largely thanks to AI. That said, there are also reports indicating that a large percentage of organizations aren't yet seeing measurable returns. So the benefits definitely bear.
Yeah, so looking at OpenAI specifically, so they obviously, as you mentioned, they have revenue increase, but can you let me know what their actually cost base is, as in, revenues versus actual expenditure?
In the first half of 2025, OpenAI brought in about $4.3 billion in revenue, but they spent around $6.7 billion on research and development, resulting in a net loss of about $2.4 billion during that period.
Right, so that's a significant loss as of 2.6 billion, meaning 2,600 million. Right, and then in terms of NVIDIA, yeah, I mean, seems to be a real, revenue. But again, it's based on, is it based on future revenue or future expectations in terms of data centers? Can you explain a bit more where the revenue comes from NVIDIA?
Absolutely. NVIDIA's data center revenue mainly comes from selling their high performance GPUs to cloud providers and companies building AI data centers. For example, in the second quarter of 2025, they earned about $41.1 billion in that segment, which was a 56% increase year over year. It's worth noting that a significant portion of that revenue, over 50%, comes from just a handful of major customers.
Sure. Okay, great. So that's obviously companies betting on the AI hype to continue, right? So they're investing heavily in data centers. So part of this 300 billion investment or 313 billion investment you mentioned earlier goes then straight to NVIDIA, right? So it's kind of a, it's almost, companies really shifting money around, right? So from Amazon to NVIDIA, OpenAI maybe to I don't know, to NVIDIA, I guess as well. Would that be right?
Yeah, you got it. A lot of that investment definitely circulates among the big players. Companies like Amazon and Microsoft invest heavily in AI infrastructure, and a big chunk of that ultimately goes to companies like Nvidia for GPUs and AI hardware. And then, of course, AI startups and research companies like OpenAI also receive significant funding, creating this interconnected ecosystem. It really does highlight how the money flows through the AI landscape.
So really then, in terms of the investment, how much of this money would you think is actually going back into the real world economy, as into people's pockets, maybe through jobs, through maybe extra tax revenue, let's say for the government. So how much money is actually being generated for the average person on the ground?
Investments are definitely having a positive impact on the real world economy. For example, in Ireland, AI could add around 250 billion euros to the GDP by 2035, and jobs in AI related fields have grown significantly by about 94% since 2019. Of course, there are also concerns about job displacement in some sectors due to automation. Overall, though, there's definitely a trickle down effect benefiting many people.
Okay. So when we say then that the investment is mainly circulating among the AI companies, so really, in does that also mean that in return that if the AI bubble would burst, that the real world effect would be relatively small, as in the effect of the in the actual economy, or how would you rate that?
That's a really insightful question. In many ways, if the AI bubble were to burst, the immediate impacts on the broader economy might be somewhat contained. A lot of the investment is concentrated within the tech sector. So while some companies and investors might face significant losses, the ripple effect on the general economy could be less severe compared to, say, a financial bubble in housing or banking. That said, there would still be some knock on effects, especially in terms of job losses in AI driven sectors and potential disruptions in supply chains. Overall, the impact might be more contained, but it wouldn't be entirely negligible.
Sure. So then looking at the investment, right, it's 313 billion, which is quite a lot. So what would be the next big things? And I guess where would that money go after the bubble has burst, for example? So there would still be money floating around. There's still people sitting on huge pile of cash that they need to invest somewhere. So what comes after the bubble has burst, I guess?
That's a really interesting angle. Often, when an AI bubble bursts, the investment tends to shift towards more stable, fundamental technologies. You might see a reallocation into areas like green energy, biotech, or even more traditional industries that have a clearer path to profitability. Additionally, some of that capital might flow into emerging markets or infrastructure projects, or even back into more mature tech sectors that might have been overshadowed by AI hype. It's kind of like a cycle of innovation and reinvestment that keeps the tech ecosystem dynamic. Let me ask you this. What emerging technology or industry are you most excited about right now? And do you think it could be the next big thing after AI?
AI is a very broad term, right? So a lot of people, when they talk AI, they mean ChatGPT and all the large language models. So I think there will be definitely some reality check on those. But when it comes to machine learning, that's still a huge field that will continue to grow even after the AI bubble, I think. And then I guess what I'm hearing at the moment is a lot about quantum computers. I think Google or Alphabet that just made a big breakthrough apparently in terms of being able to, to verify some of their calculations. And I think that's a field that would be very interesting with really real world applications in the sense of medication, health. So that could be really booming, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely, that makes a ton of sense. Quantum computing is definitely one of those frontier technologies that could revolutionize fields like drug discovery, materials science, and complex modeling. And you're right, while AI in its current form might face some reality checks, the underlying machine learning and quantum advancements will likely keep pushing boundaries. It's exciting to see where it all leads.
Okay. So what are the companies then that are set up for the quantum computer revolution, if there ever will be one?
There are quite a few key players in the quantum computing space. IBM is a pioneer working with superconducting qubits. Google's quantum AI division is also making big strides with similar technology. Microsoft's Azure quantum platform gives access to different quantum hardware, and Amazon's Break-It service lets users explore various quantum technologies. Plus, startups like D-Wave Systems and IMT are pushing toward with quantum annealing and trapped ion qubits.
Okay, great. So yeah, it looks like Google or Alphabet is well positioned in that field as well. So it looks like they're quite diversified. Now, obviously, they have the AI piece going for them. They have data centers, and then also they're very well set up in the quantum world, and they're also looking at mobility, in terms of self-driving cars. So that seems like a good company for me to watch out for, I guess, in the future. So even when the AI bubble bursts, I don't think there will be a huge impact in the midterm on them. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think you're spot on. Companies like Alphabet have really diversified their portfolio. So even if one area like AI faces some turbulence, they have strong footholds in quantum computing, autonomous vehicles, cloud infrastructure, and more. That kind of diversification definitely helps cushion them from market volatility. So even in the midterm, I think they will remain resilient and continue to innovate.
And what's your view on, the world after AI? So what comes next? What's the next big thing for you?
That's such a fun question. I think after AI, we'll likely see a deeper integration of quantum computing and advances in biotechnology like personalized medicine and genetic engineering. We might also see more breakthroughs in sustainable technologies like advanced energy storage and renewable energy solutions. It's exciting to think about the possibilities and how they'll all interconnect.
Okay, cool. And lastly, then, if people are concerned about the AI bubble to burst and let's say they're invested at the moment in some of those companies like Amazon, for example, like Nvidia, or other companies that are heavily reliant on the AI boom, what would you say to them? What would be a good strategy to handle the potential downturn?
That's a really thoughtful consideration. I'd say diversification is key. It's always wise not to put all your eggs in one basket. So spreading investments across different sectors can help mitigate risk. It's also good to keep an eye on companies that have strong fundamentals and diverse revenue streams, not just AI. Staying informed, being patient, and maybe even considering some hedging strategies can also help. And of course, keeping a long-term perspective is always valuable.
Okay, great. That's all the time we have at the moment. It's getting quite late here on my end. So yeah, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for my listeners for tuning in again, and hope to hear you again in the next episode. All the best and take care.